Good evening, once again. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the alternative media, social media platform here, the Issues Room on Facebook, YouTube, and the Issues Room page. This evening, we're having some technical difficulties here, trying to make some adjustments. And as you can see, the theme song is bouncing all over the place. But it's good to be back with you this Tuesday, the 30th of December, or rather November. I almost said December because I'm about to cross over into December. But the 30th of November 2021, we have just about another month to go in the year 2021. And so it's good to be back here again with you wherever you are. I say welcome, welcome, welcome. The platform broadcasts on Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 12 midnight Greenwich Mean Time all over the world. We transmit globally, and so we say welcome, invite a friend, share the link, and let's have a great time tonight. Tonight is the 24th edition, and we'll be looking at a wonderful discussion. We're looking forward to a wonderful discussion. So welcome and join us. Uh, let's do this together. My name is Volcano Shelton. Let me just bring in my colleague, Moses Sandy, who's been trying to get the studios lighting straightened up, but is still looking not too good. But nevertheless, it's more of the content. We always say what the discussion will be like tonight. Just before you come in, I want to encourage our viewers and listeners, wherever you are, to begin to join us. Uh, just let us know you're there. The first person is Janet Benu BN. Bendu, welcome, Ms. BN, to the Issues Room. Moses?
Yes, it's pleasing again to be back in the issues room with another thought provoking. Volcano, the year is gradually coming to a close.
I don't
Tomorrow,
think it's gradual
will
at
be
this point. It's speedily.
tomorrow is December the 1st.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to be back. Let me say hats up to all of our many listeners and viewers across the world. Today, we come to bring you another thought provoking discussion.
Thank you, Moses.
Thank you,
So,
too.
so the nice conversation will center around a young, promising Liberian who is doing good things. The young man is John S.M. Yormie Jr. He will be here with us tonight to discuss his book that he released, published, titled, Liberia in the Colorful World of Diplomacy. We'll look at the book, we'll dissect the book. He talked about the book proceeds being used toward education, especially in the Leeward counties. He also established a nonprofit organization, the Liberian Research and Development Network. We'll talk about that. We'll, browse around the issue of the educational sector, as you and I know. We'll talk about research. He's a research buff. He thinks that is very, necessary for young Liberians, to begin to take interest in research. We'll also be looking at diplomacy and foreign policy of Liberia. He will kind of, just browse over the state of affairs, the current state of affairs, and also governance in the country. And he's working on his second book, and part of the discussion to kind of delve into what the new book is about and how does it, uh, you know, um, align with what's trending in Liberia and how can we make improvements. So again, we want to welcome Charles Atake Welia. Good evening, Clara Howard. Thank you so much for coming. We're looking forward to more of you. Just share the link for us, invite someone, and let's have these wonderful discussions tonight. We decided to introduce a new segment in the Issues Room, Moses, and it's titled Issues Trending in the News. Issues Trending in the News. So it's all about issues, 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 anything that is debatable, anything that is discussionable. And that's what we're here tonight. So tell me on your end, what's the latest in the news?
Yeah, before we can even look at the issues, let me just say this show is about creativity. So, a new segment is bringing in, happenings around the world. Uh, would like to start off by going to our neighboring country, Guinea, which has a population of a little over 12 million people. 3 months ago, there was a military takeover in Guinea after the 83 years old President Alpha Conde was dethroned for personalizing uh, the presidency. So he was on Sunday of this week released from prison but put on a house arrest. Conde served as president from 2010 to 2021, and his problem started after the Guinean parliament passed into law a budget which allocated a significant portion of the nation's resources to the president with little or no support to members of the security apparatus. I think that upset, the coup makers, and the 83 years old was overthrown. As a result, the action in Guinea, ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS leaders.
Could you just lower your speaker on your gadget? Getting
Oh,
some feedback.
okay. So,
Yeah,
sorry about that. I was saying that,
go ahead.
after the military took over 3 months ago, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, imposed travel restriction on the coup leader because, in West Africa, what the African leaders they have done is to discourage people from seizing power, forcibly. So there was a travel restriction, asset freeze, bans, and all of that, imposed on the coup leaders. But right now, as I speak to you, Alpha Kundi, the 83 years old man, is on a house arrest instead of being in prison. And then we
Okay.
will like to go to Liberia. And this time we'll be looking at the training situation at the National Elections Commission, the NEC, the body authorized to hold free and fair elections in Liberia. Volcano, I'm not sure if you've been following the development, but right now the commissioners, including the chair of the commission, Deada Brown, our former co-worker, being probed by the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission in the wake of $182,000, which the NDC reportedly used to rent thermometers. And status shows that the actual cost of thermometer, we're not talking about a regular thermometer, this is a non-contact thermometer which recognizes images. The average cost of that volcano is 1,000 it's 1,300 US dollars. But the NEC reportedly rented 20 thermometers from a company called Tumor Enterprise. Tumor Enterprise loaned the 20 thermometers to be used, or the thermometers were used for the by-elections that were held in Bombay, Grand Judah, and in fact, in four counties. So they used the thermometers, and according to the NDC, they said the process was approved by the Public Procurement Concession Commission, the PPCC, and they said they spent a little over $9,000 for each of the thermometers, and that raised an eyebrow. So
So what?
right
What?
now,
So
the
so they're
Elections
still on the
Commission is
investigation.
probing the
Anything yet?
NEC. Say that again.
Anything yet on the investigation?
The commissioners are speaking to the LACC.
Okay.
Okay, but I mean, if you would spend $1,300 to get a brand new non-contact uh, imaging device, then what sense does it make to spend more than $9,000 to lease it? And Volcano, one of the sticky issues that are rather pop up is the conflict of interest. Reportedly, one of the senior executives of the company that leads the 20 thermometers to the NEC is a relative of the chairman of the Elections Commission, Data Brown. So how do you reconcile that?
All right. Thank
And let
you.
me come to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to do one thing today. I saw on Front Page Africa where they brought down their annual evaluation for the
Mhm.
executive branch and its functionaries. And I'm just going to call the grades that were given by Front Page Africa. I'm not going to go into the details. So for President George Weah, um, for 2021, he has a grade of B. So he got a grade B. Joel Howard Tiller, VP, got a grade of B. Agriculture Minister, Minister Cooper, got a grade of B. Commerce Minister Dix got a grade of C. Education Minister, he flunk. He got an F. That's Sony. Um, Finance Minister Tua got B plus. Okay,
Hmm.
all right. Uh, Foreign Minister Kimaya got a grade C plus. So I guess Yormie, who is a foreign policy buff, will talk to us when he comes on momentarily. Gender Minister Piso Tar got a grade C plus. Health Minister Jala got a grade B plus. Information Minister, our brother and former colleague Ledgerhood Rennie got a grade B minus. Internal Affairs Minister, Minister Sirleaf, got a grade B minus. Justice Minister Dean, Musa Dean, got a grade C uh, plus. Labor Minister Gibson got a grade C minus, and I'm believing it's the same Charles Gibson that had
Yeah,
that corruption scandal on him, and he
yeah.
still became Labor Minister. All
Mhm.
right, then Mines and Minerals Minister Maury has a grade D. Defense Minister Zankai has a grade C plus. Post and Telecommunications Minister Krua, there was no grade for him. I don't know he didn't do his homework or he didn't take the test, but
So
no
why?
grade, no grade,
Why?
or he didn't go for the test. Public Works Minister Coker, who is the acting Ruth Coker, since Mabutu passed, got a grade C. State Minister McGill, they call him the de facto president and prime minister of Liberia, he got a D.
Oh,
Transport Minister Wulu got B minus. Youth and Sports Minister Zoga Wilson got a grade F, so he failed. City Mayor Koji, he got a C.
so the
Civil
mayor
Service
coaching.
Mayor Koji got a C. When you do when we use a tape period test, maybe you can use one period to kind of
Yeah, to
increase your
put you
grade.
up.
So the
Yeah.
small cleaning up they're doing right now, it helped with grades and it brought it to a C. Civil Service Agency Director Thompson got a grade C minus.
Mhm.
The EPA Director Tarpe got a grade B. That's Wilson Tarpe.
Yeah.
Uh, GSA Boss Mary Bra got a grade B minus. Um, the NSA head got a grade D. LNP Inspector General Sudu got a grade C plus. Immigration got a grade C, and the DEA got an F. So right now, F for our man Jackley, I'm not sure, and the guy he just went there not too long.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he hasn't been able to make a turnaround. But that's for it right now. So I just thought to throw that out
Uh,
there. That
But yeah,
that come again, come
quickly, I
again.
just want to say something about the grading.
Okay,
This grading, anyway, grading is subjective.
let's do that in
Uh,
1 minute.
Yeah, grading is subjective. I do disagree with some of the grades scored by some of the public officials.
Well, that's front page Africa.
Yeah,
Little man and get back grade or close them down. So,
because our president William himself deserves a D from a personal
well,
assessment.
but
Yeah,
that's front page Africa.
yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
so let's move on. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you just joining us, the issues room here, and we just had trending issues in the news, a segment within the issues room as we probe now and move forward into our discussion. We'd like to welcome Agassi Dwalu, welcome, Ambassador Edmond Walakewon, Charles Atake Belia, U.S. Visa, um, or rather Jerome Morris, Thomas Awaji, Jem Johnson, good evening and welcome. Ramsey Labla, welcome. Born and raised in Yekepa, Nima County, Liberia, John S. M. Yormie Jr. is an emerging Liberian diplomat, researcher, university, university lecturer, and author. He currently serves as coordinator of the Gabriel L. Dennis Foreign Service Institute, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Liberia, and executive director of the Liberia Research and Development Networks, the LRDN. He has previously worked in positions of trust in key governmental entities, including the Ministry of Commerce and House of Representatives of the Republic of Liberia. He believes in the philosophy of voluntarism and service to humanity, which has earned him several honors and recognitions, including the 2019 Jindal Global University Distinguished Alumni Awards of India. He serves on the persons chief adjudication panel cap of the Youth for Change Incorporated, led by the Ministry of Education endorsed National High School Debate Championship. From 2013 to 2015, he earned Masters of Art in Diplomacy Law and Business, with emphasis in international law from the prestigious Jindal Global University in India. From 2010 to 2011, he also attended the Foreign Service Institute of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and earned a postgraduate diploma in diplomacy and contemporary international relations. Mr. Yormie also studied at the Cotton University College from 2006 to 2009, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts with honor in sociology. He played a lead researcher role in the production of the LRD and flagship historical documentary titled Flashback to Liberia Historical Foundations. He was the lead researcher for the Center for National Documents and Records Agency of Liberia when they produced a magazine titled Liberia and the UN, A Long Journey of Partnership. He's authored his book, Liberia in the Colorful World of Diplomacy, is the fourth publishing 2019. This book is five-star rated on Amazon. Our viewers, all of you, let's join and bring in Mr. John Yormie Jr. Good evening. Welcome to the Issues Room, John.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to be on this platform.
Good, good. So, Moses,
President John.
we're gonna be discussing his book. We have a few chapters. I sent that to you. I'm not sure if you were able to check it out, but let's begin with this book, and then we'll go from there to the next segments of this conversation. The
Sure.
book, Liberia in a Colorful World of Diplomacy. What's the inspiration? What led you into writing this book? When was this project done? And what has it done for Liberia on the international scene?
Thank you. Firstly, I'm so delighted to have such an opportunity to share something I'm so passionate about, which is research, and something that is of my profession, diplomacy, and by extension, foreign relations. So the book, titled Liberia in the Colorful World of Diplomacy, was published in 2019 in the month of April. And that is basically a collection of several articles and other research work I've done in the past, trying to spotlight the significance of Liberia and integrating other aspects of domestic policies that has to do with the linkage of our foreign policy. So it's actually motivated by a popular argument in international relations that there is a significant relationship between your domestic policies and your foreign policy. To some extent, is like your domestic policy propels the foreign policy, it shapes the foreign policy, and in that way, it attracts the necessary support and sometimes we want to say the kind of acclaim attraction to support again the domestic policies which are the national interest of the country. So working in the first line ministry, having studied diplomacy at various levels and being positioned with some of the best brains and minds, the cream de the cream of Liberian foreign policy, it was only an opportunity to gain from their wisdom and apply myself in somewhere I call a significant gap in our country where a lot of accounts of our history in different areas, including diplomacy, have not really been researched significantly and where research sometimes with several distortions. So being in India in an environment that was very enabling with the desire to write every time, with not many opportunities. When I was in India, I was inspired with the culture of research, with the culture of the faculty doing presentation of articles, findings, doing presentation of research work, every time attending seminar of high standards, people of highly placed academic orientations, coming and making presentations, and I was inspired. I saw the life in me. So when I returned to Liberia, I saw an opportunity to start to write on several things. And one of the things I want to quickly mention, I was never shy to identify issues. That's why when I saw the topic on your platform, I was happy because there are several issues, but many times people have not had the courage, they've not had the exposure and the discipline to talk about these things, mostly because of politics. But returning from a government scholarship, I had the courage to say, hey, it is about time to inspire a new generation based on facts, based on research investigations that are purely empirical and to identify some of the problems. So I was talking about issue of the agenda for transformation. I was talking about preying on an economy that is heavily aid based when we should be talking about actual activities in the country that would lead into economic prosperity. So every time I was being asked whether I was actually working for the government, I was like, yes. The most important part of my work, returning from studies, should be able to identify problems and recommend the way forward. So eventually that led to me having several consultations with people like Ambassador George W. Wallace, of former Minister Olubangi King Akirili, and several other people, Dr. Cornyn, the late Reverend Buya, who was my mentor, and they inspired me to actually get to the point. All I needed was a platform to have that book published. So when I got in contact with the Fourth Publisher International, I saw an opportunity. They were like, can you just send a draft of the book? And when I sent that draft, they were like, you are already ready to go. All we needed to do was to actually follow a rigorous process. We went to the Foreign Service Institute, made presentations, we got a significant feedback from the audience. We went to the University of Liberia, spoke with graduate students, had significant healthy discussions about our country, were able to gather more ideas, and we went around, had both chats, had several discussions, and we were just set to go. And once we hit up, it was more than just a book. There was an inspiration. We saw many people responding. We saw many people talking about it. Young people were inspired, and we went beyond the length and breadth of our country. Where I was born and raised, we went and told people that, hey, I'm back to tell you a positive story. More of our young people should follow this pattern, should follow this trend. We had pre-launch in Yekipa, we had a pre-launch in Saniquili, where Dr. Guano gave his blessing and members of the caucus were there. We have just been creating that environment of highly sophisticated, academically driven opportunities for young people. So it was a big show again in Monrovia sometime in May of 2019 when we officially launched this book. Several people were in attendance: scholars, students, policy actors, and just people of cross section of our society, telling the news story of our country, telling of our historical significance, giving a light to the youth population too. That a young person like me would not just sit and go and do press releases. I'm not against that, but I'm just saying the overall emphasis of prayer releases, battle cries, chants, and many things in the streets that are not actually portraying the academic or nature of our country. I thought it was a way to break that barrier, and that has been working. So we have Liberia in the Court of Word of Diplomacy. It is here every time, and I would like to talk more about that. I just want to say a brief section. That is what led to the motivation of writing this book, what we've been doing around it, and what we continue to do. I will be so happy to share in the coming meetings.
Thank you so much. Just before Moses coming, you talked about empirical evidence. Who are some of the international folks that were involved with this work, apart from the names you named in Liberia locally? Because this book is spreading out, foreign policy. You talked about the domestic, but also the foreign policy. Where did you go?
Yeah, so I graduated from a school that is standing very tall in international relations. That's the Gender School of International Affairs within the Gina Global University. So they track their graduates doing things within the area of their expertise. So I will always relate to them what I'm doing. They will share the ideas into methodological pathway of how to acquire important instruments. Take for example treaties. How will you retrieve a treaty? What are the section of those treaties and how they have applied and how they have shifted over time. So there were several consultations internationally, but in terms of the local framework, I had a real blessed moment because if I was contacting a person like Ambassador Wallace, he would sit and explain to you from the very beginning of the Liberian establishment. He would talk about his involvement from the Todman era to the Torbot era to the Doe's era to the Taylor's era, coming up to all of the peacekeeping arrangements and the transitional governments, coming and being the first foreign minister of Madam Sirleaf, coming and being the foreign relations advisor to the president, and being, say, the premier most reference person at the Foreign Service Institute. There were luxury of things to put hands on, to listen, and to just make sure. And I have a huge reservoir. We're just looking for more opportunities to do more research and see how we can just shape a way of informing the world that this great country is still the giant in the master art of diplomacy.
Yes, Mr. Yomi, excellent job you continue to do for our country. But now let me take you back to the title of your book, Liberia in the Colorful World of Democracy.
Diplomacy.
I mean, diplomacy. Yeah, diplomacy. The colorful world of diplomacy. As a diplomat and having assessed the current situation in Liberia, I'm sure you may have done a lot of research, even delving into Liberia's past. As part of your work, do you think Liberia adheres to those tenets of diplomacy?
Yeah, firstly, to the title of the book, Liberia and the Colorful World of Diplomacy,
Mhm.
it is basically trying to project the many complexities and many accomplishments within diplomacy. So,
Okay.
if you want to look at diplomacy from a friendly standpoint, talking about the bilateral relationships, talking about multilateral organizations, and how the liberalism tends to bring people together to solve problems, like through the United Nations, like through the ECOWAS, the African Development Bank, and just regionally or sub-regionally, the MRU. You will talk about the many phases of diplomacy. If you want to talk about aggression and how territorial integrity should be protected, all of these lines are more of like the gunboat diplomacy, like the high chances and saying if there's an encroachment, we're going to have this reactionary tendency of telling you you cannot encroach on us. These are different levels. If you want to talk about the ceremonial aspect, going to the GA, having functions, going to say the ambassadorial lecture series and having wine, having food and all of that, wearing the nice suits. That's another side of the ceremonial aspect of diplomacy. If you want to talk about trade relationships, all right, so all of those aspects of diplomacy are very colorful. Sometimes it's a little dark, sometimes a little colorful, sometimes it's mild, but it's all about understanding the complexities. That why makes you a well-rounded career diplomat, because these are things that will always confront you. So from an informed position, you should have the idea to save your country, and you have that moral and duty core responsibility at every point in time. There's something called the vital interest of the country. No matter what, it is about your country A, it is about your country B, it is about country up to Z. It is about the interest of your country. So, I mean, that brings together the title of this book. All right. So, in terms of the current state of our foreign policy, I would not want to just give a blanket response, because there are several advancements Liberia has made within their, I like to say, the ambient of diplomacy and foreign relations. The traditional heritage of our diplomacy has helped to have revived Liberia, tracing from the time of the colonial period where encroachments were very heavy and it was the order of the day, slavery all up and down. But we had that black nation rising and making sure that the rest of the African continent have the sense of sovereignty that is a bonus for us. Coming up to the middle aspect of our diplomacy and foreign relations, when the Cold War was at its peak and during the Todman's era, we saw the real master art of diplomacy and how the Western philosophy of democracy was being actually received in Liberia being a proud state on the west coast of Africa was a light, was an enlightenment for democracy. So you saw that the West succeeded on that part of Africa because of Liberia. It was all because of great men like Gabriel L. Dennis or Clarence Simpson or Rudolph Grahams and all those people who really understood the issues. But we saw a little shift from the 80s when we saw a little shift or more of domestic shift into our military, into our political system, and that also affected our foreign policy. And we saw that fast growing during the early 90s and to the end of the 90s. We saw it was more of how we could protect a regime than how we could establish external links. And we saw the shift from the foreign policy of the West, and we saw a breakdown with our relationship with China, mainland China, and a rise with Taiwan, because the kind of diplomacy Taiwan could offer was more like something called the briefcase diplomacy. They give you money, you do stuff for them. They need a recognition, they need a friendship, they need some voting power, and they needed that as a key for their foreign policy. So we could see people not wanting to go into set of rules, requirements of human rights, and all of those indicators. They were more of how can we secure and save this regime. So that was more of the Taylor's era. Then we saw the rise of something called development diplomacy, and that shifted even the curriculum of the Foreign Service Institute. So the development diplomacy was, we are in a period of less confrontation, less war. We have the presence of army in our country with heavy troops, and they are supporting peace building processes, security sector reforms. And now we need to have companies come in. We need to build up strategies around foreign direct investment and so forth. So we started seeing Meta Steel coming in, China Union, BHP Billiton, and several other companies, Volcano Renewable Energy, and so forth. So now that has been our major focus. So in terms of how much we've achieved that, I can say we are not to that level of the milestones that were set, because we do not see an economically prosperous society where it's job based. You find young people have employment opportunities. So I can tell you we are short of that. But in terms of maintaining our relationships with international organizations, we are good. In terms of say maintaining friendly relationship, which is one of the core values of our liberal tendencies of foreign policy, maintaining friendly neighborliness and good friendship is really good, because we are all in good relationship with our neighbors and other partners. And I can tell you one of the major problems we have, it is about using And I would say it without any fear or favor, but based on facts being within. We have not really utilized significantly some of the best brains and minds within our employment system. And I can say that. I mean, I don't know the reason. I don't want to shift to who is responsible, but I can say for a fact some of the best brains and minds have not been positioned to have these kind of healthy discussions for our country. Because if you went at a discussion table, there's something called the commending persons. People want to see your accomplishments and how you have helped to shape the actual achievement within your area, didn't have that kind of conversations with you. But if you went to somebody and having a conversation with some kind of zero accomplishment, low profile, there is a downturn in that kind of bargaining. Your bargaining power is low, your bargaining strength is low. I just want to throw it back historically. If you went to the period where in a person like Gabriel Lafayette Dennis went to a function, he would be chairing some committee at the United Nations. Or Clarence Simpson, they will be chairing some committee at the security sector or security council platform. Or Clarence, let's say, former Minister Weeks. Those were people that really moved and shook the world around. So we need to follow that pattern. If the foreign service has been able to produce people, yes. If the actual government, I'm not pointing to a particular president or particular regime, has been able to absorb and fund that incremental or say career development for our foreign service officers, I say is questionable.
And it's a very brilliant point you stressed there, looking back at some of the names you called. What I'm finding here today is all about, praising a government instead of looking out there in the international sector where you can win a lot more. And the other thing you talked about is the presence, that international diplomacy presence when you're out there, how you carry yourself and how you're able to pervade that aura in the atmosphere. And unfortunately, we're not seeing it happening in the latter years of our relationship out there. And that is why one government comes, they're able to make some strides, and another government comes and is able to either make further stride or regress. And we find that often with our country. Rather than staying on a straight, forward, trajectory. You mentioned the development policy, that era of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, bringing in international um, um, nonprofit organizations and institutions and businesses. Today, probably PH Billiton is gone. Now what do you have? ArcelorMittal. Do we know what type of deal on the table? Have they revisited the deal? So these kinds of things, and that's why I continue to cripple our diplomacy, whether domestically or internationally.
Sure, that's a reality.
And
So, you got another question, Moses?
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
Volcano, you struck a very salient point
Hmm.
regarding the treatment of Liberians who are diplomats representing us in foreign land.
Hmm.
And I'm sure Yomi you can speak to that better because this is your specialty. But what we are learning over the years is that a good number of our diplomats struggle while representing Liberia abroad. Some of them in salaries that are not living wages. Some of them live in a deplorable uh, home environment. With all of these challenges, our diplomats contend with on a regular basis. What do you think is the way forward? How can because if our diplomats are not taken care of, are not treated as comparable to other diplomats, that could also lead to other serious problems. What do you think Liberia as a country can do to make sure that individuals representing us abroad are treated like human beings?
Yeah, I like that question. Many years ago, I sat in the Foreign Service Institute class, and I was being
Come
told,
on now, don't go here with many years ago. You're a young
no,
man.
yeah, I mean, I want to make it look, a little, yeah,
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 go ahead, John.
yeah. I like that. So yeah, so we were being told of this long time protracted problem. of the ways foreign service officers, like we say FSOs, have struggled within foreign country. But again, with the kind of discipline instilled into foreign service officers, they may not take the regular radical patterns like other people would do. I, I mean, it has been a problem. It has been a struggle. So now, all we can say it is about every government coming up and trying as much as possible to identify the daily subsistence of our foreign service officers. I don't want to point to a particular regime or a particular government, but I think it's something previous governments have struggled with, and it's about time that we try to boost up the morale of our foreign service officers or our Liberian diplomats abroad, because they have that that position to face our country. Because once you met a Liberian diplomat, by extension, you have met the face of our country. So the impression of that person goes a very long way. So all I can say is about doing better, is about thinking a way forward and seeing how we can have the best people firstly and how we can maintain it within the foreign service.
Okay. So now let's look at your role in Liberia's educational sector. From what I heard you say earlier, a good portion of the money you generate from the sale of the
Moses,
book goes towards.
Moses, I was hoping that we get to that. Let's focus
Sure,
on the book
sure.
yet. So
Okay.
we'll come to that part. But one
Mhm.
one area I wanted us to look at, because he's covered a lot of them, so we'll be wrapping the book up quickly. Is
Okay.
that existing limited efficacies that you talked about, the corporate social responsibility, the Liberian scenario.
Okay. Go ahead.
What do
Yeah,
you think? What do you think that would do for Liberia? And unfortunately, many of the institutions in this country have social corporate responsibility to the communities they thrive in. The banking institutions, the big five or what you call Fortune 500 companies, big corporations. They give back to the community. On the flip side, none of this happens, and you're right. This has to do with what type of domestic and foreign policy we put in place at the get go when these institutions come in our country. And sometimes we fail at the table because of the key word corruption.
yeah.
Just dabble over this component.
Thank you. And this is one of the reasons I actually mentioned this aspect of the book, because there is a significant relationship between corporate social responsibility, international instruments that are banning, as compared to the domestic, or say what they call the ratification of those instruments. So I was inspired by this chapter based on the research I did for my graduate program, because I did the research on corporate social responsibility in India, and I was looking at the impact of companies in the area of health, education, and employment, because these are the basis for livelihoods. So I was fortunate to have done that research with the third largest steel company in India, the Jindal Power and Steel. So when I went to villages, I saw that there were impact driven projects of people who were in the neighborhood of the company facilities. I could see schools being built. I could see water and sanitation facilities. I could see health provision facilities. I could see the expansion of roads and connecting people who have been within those areas, and because of the company's operation. And there's a key thing in corporate social responsibility that talks about the actions and inactions of companies that will lead to the effect on people who previously inhabited the
Let me
areas
just
that
let me
are.
just interrupt you quick. Come to your right a little bit so you can centralize. Okay, good.
Sure.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And people who previously inhabited those areas have now received a new economic impact. So there was a point that I realized from my findings that the policies were very crucial, because there are a set of international policies, up to like 20 different sets under the International Labor Organization that talks about labor standards. So most of these countries adopt these ratifications and they domesticate them. Then they try to faction the way that their domestic policy can impact the citizenry, because that's the importance of having the relationship from the international plane to the domestic plane. And one of my findings was clear on how the Indian government established the uh, Indian Act of the Indian Company Act of 2014 that says every company operating in the land space of India, operating in an annual outturn of 100,000, should be able to give 2% of that to the host communities. And they will do that through reports, and people from the government will go and investigate. If you said we build schools, we build roads, we should see the procurement processes leading to that, and we should see the high pieces of evidence showing that based upon what was being generated from that books, investigation show that they are in compliance or they are in non-compliance. It is binding. These are the kind of relationships we are talking about. But if you went to Liberia, it is more on the reverse. People are seeing corporate social responsibility more as being like a favor. It's not a favor, it is a global compact that is heavily being investigated, because there is something called a triangulation: the company, the government, and the host community. There should be that relationship wherein the company makes profit, the government gets taxes, and the citizens have better livelihood. That is the
Hmm.
cycle. But in our
Wow.
country, it's on the reverse.
Mhm.
All right. So I thought it was important to have emphasis on that. And it shows clearly that people are not being held to their responsibilities. I was born and raised in Yekipa. I saw the terrible road conditions between Kanta and Yekipa. Till now, we struggled. People are saying it's like a favor. It's not a favor. It's in an agreement that was signed, and the section of the corporate social responsibility says Meta Steel must construct a road from Kansa to Yekipa. It is within the budget, it's within the agreement. It becomes a binding requirement of Mittal. It should not be by choice, it should not be by favor. So it is the responsibility of the government to say our people need better connectivity for their roads. It is a major mining city, it is a major border crossing point. They need to get goods and services. I mean, commuting from one point to another. It becomes the responsibility of a responsible government.
And the man who go to go check for that to go check on that responsibility. Okay, my man, you just give me something. I'll come back later. You'll be working on the modality, and they'll be working on that modality on that 10 years gone. I still better pack that bag. They're gone. But
And
the man
and
who go,
jokingly, I always tell people if a librarian told you is in the pipeline, you should think about something else. It
yeah,
has been in the
yeah,
pipeline forever.
okay.
The
That
future
bus is
team,
coming.
okay?
Oh yeah, the man going, he going there to go check to make sure the thing happen. Then he put then he say, and then he said, all right, yeah, for me something, I'll come back. 2 years back, oh, the road they ain't built.
But look, John, this is very laughable, but let me ask you this question. You reported to us and our many viewers out there what you witnessed or what you read about happening in India.
Yeah.
Now in Liberia, what do you think that uh our inability, when I say our, I'm making reference to our national leaders inability to hold companies accountable when it comes to corporate social responsibility, adhering to that particular aspect of a contractual agreement. Why is it so difficult?
I can tell you for many opportunities I've had to talk about Liberia, I talk about Liberia from a point of fairness, from a point of objectivity in my observation.
Okay.
Our political system is heavily individually driven. What do that mean? There are very powerful people in our country and people with massive influence. So many times when they are in position of trust, they are more individually driven than public centered. So if you have a repetition, many years of people being recycled with the same mentality, of saying it's okay for me and I don't care about the rest of the population, then it becomes a problem because it is easy to negotiate to satisfy an individual than to reinforce policies that would take time to affect the rest of the population. If I went to talk about construction of a school, how long will it take and the amount that it's going to cost, it's going to take a more rigorous and rigid negotiation, and that would really require the tools of diplomacy and negotiation powers as compared to saying I could have three pickups for my next campaign, or I could have few persons put on a payroll from my client or from my household. I mean, it's just easy to do. I mean, the company manager can pick up a phone and call the HR. You can have this person employed as a middle level manager or a top level manager in the interest of this person who is making negotiation on behalf of the government. That go beyond our political parties. It is not a selective party ideology. It is a Liberian thing. All right. So many years ago, we saw many contracts coming up. On the paper, it looks beautiful, it looks nice, but in actual practices, people who should enforce or sort of ensure that compliances are withheld, they are the one looking good and telling you how other people should be when you are not looking good. But they look good in the point of, I mean, in the area of difficulty, like difficulties that children go to good schools, they go to abroad, they do many things. They have really good buildings with high fence up, I mean, with electricity 2 for 7, but they come and tell you that LEC is not doing good, water and silver is not doing good, but we will make sure they will do good. But they are doing good when you are not doing good. That's not a
Good
problem.
point. Good point. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is joining us, this is the Issues Room. The Issues Room is an alternative media platform. And we use the word alternative in the context of we're not just everyday media platform. We are the alternative to the other media platforms that you hear raving about being number one and 2 million views and all of that. We say it's not about views, it's about content. It's about the kinds of guests, the discussion that we want to bring forth. And I think that John Yomi is doing an excellent piece of work. Moses here displaying his foreign policy and diplomacy with us tonight. So if you just join us, we encourage you to share the link, invite a friend. Good conversation here this evening. The program can be heard on Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time and midnight GMT. I'm Volcano Shelton with Moses Sandy. We'll be opening the lines momentarily, but we want to now go into this other segment that has to do with the educational sector. So I'll go back to Moses to bring that question in. Come on, Moses.
Yeah, John. Let's look at your role in the educational sector of Liberia, because you did indicate earlier that funds generated from the sale of your book, a good portion of that goes towards the support of the educational sector. Um, what are some of the initiatives that you have undertaken in the educational sector that you would like to tell our people?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say there's something I always said whenever I have the opportunity to do lectures or to do something, introducing myself. The most passionate job that I've ever had and will always want to do is teaching because I have seen the need, if I want to qualify, the dying need of the kind of faculty we should have to have the kind of impact from our graduates. It is terrible. So returning to Liberia from studies, I had this obligation in my mind to serve my country in many ways, but most particularly at even a high school or an elementary school. And I was opportune to have had an opportunity at the African Methodist Episcopal University. I could see desirous students, but I could see low motivation. I could see an environment not attractive, not very appealing to the consciences of academic people, but I could see resilient students trying to achieve education. So I tell you for a fact, if I want to look back into our system before talking about the book and its impact, and the charity work to do, faculty is a problem. When I met Dr. Robert Lord like 5 6 years ago at the graduate school, he saw my writing, he saw my passion, and he told me, "I offer great things, but you need some technical support." He could tell me how to limit a paragraph. He could tell me how to connect sentences, punctuation, and how to have the coherence in the flow of your arguments. And what difference that paper is going to make. It's not just about taking things on the internet and putting it down. It's about what difference it's going to make. Are you validating an argument? Are you doing an investigation to reveal facts for policymakers to act upon? So all these kind of opportunities could not have been afforded to me easily in that space in Liberia. I have had some really great faculty members, some really great mentors, but the actual taste of academics right now in Liberia is at a downturn. So I was like, I should get to the classroom, inspire young people, and we have been succeeding on that. And I can say discipline is at the very lowest in most of our institutions because people who present themselves as faculty member have some really questionable discipline standards. There are some really great people, great older folks, great young people doing some amazing things in our country, but it should be more of a national standard that once you said you are a lecturer, it should distinguish you from the rest of the people. We have important roles to play in that area. Talking about the book, we have been able to reach out. Like I have reached out. I mean, your platform is so receptive. I'm happy. It's not like that everywhere. You have to knock on the doors. You have to make every possible means to let people know that this is what we are up to. It is not about ourselves. It's about our country. It's about the challenges within one of the most important sectors of our country, which is education. And I can tell you, is with no fear or favor the past few governments have not made the necessary investments within education, whether it be for research, for development and innovations, for faculty training, for providing infrastructure like libraries or tech or rooms and say laboratories and so forth. So we have gone across the length and breadth of our country and seeing kids struggle for little things like copybooks, pencils, backpacks. So I'm saying if I can sell books and people are willing to pay like on Amazon $15, in Liberia $20, and some good friends, I categorize that as the individual sponsorship, giving $50 for the piece of book like this, it is a blessing. We have corporate entities giving $100 per piece. It is more of a blessing. Is it something to just pocket? Maybe yes or no. Is there something to talk about next books? I'm hopeful that we can get the right connections and do more books. But what about the kids that cannot afford and they cannot keep their notes because they don't have copybooks? So we started going out and we're able to identify 11 schools, five in Nimba, three in Bon County, and three in Maggie. Somebody said, why Bon County? We're doing a project in Kokoya. Kokoya is the area hosting one of the multi-million dollar companies in our country, the M&G mining company. They are extracting gold within M&G or construction area. But how many students are within that place that have the opportunity to go to school? The few who are going to school, what is the environment where to study? The few that are going to school, what are the educational materials available to them? Our team sat and said, we are not just coming to investigate, but we should make impact. That's how we started up in Sayway Town and in Kokoya itself, in another public school to provide like copybooks, customized copybooks of our NGO logo, the flag of Liberia, symbolizing patriotism and letting children know that there are other people on the other side trying to make sure that they can survive beyond all of the main challenges they have. So we have been doing that and we've been reaching out to people like the One Goal Foundation here in the US and several other friends who believe in what we're doing, give copybooks, they give backpacks. And I mean, many people just doing an amazing thing. And I want to say we have an amazing team. They travel over here and there. I think I sent a report to Mr. Shelton of the investigation we made a couple of months ago. People are struggling for bathroom facilities, for toilet facilities in major high schools, in elementary schools where our students go. So we just want to make more interventions and see how we can change the narratives within the educational sector.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, we'll want to open the lines at some point. I'm sure that our viewers would like to engage you briefly. So we'll do 10 more minutes, then we'll open the line at 8:20. Uh, but we've covered the book much more. So let's look at the current state of affairs in Liberia. A young man like you, what you're doing, um, I don't know how many people are involved with the LRDN, and at not just the voluntary level, but at the national level. But just surveying the landscape in the country, it tells you that sometimes the environment is actually not enabling, and especially with what we see in the COVID, the climate is overrun by, you know, the negatives in the society. You talked about motorbikes everywhere. The kids want to make money now. They're not trying to go back to school. So you got more than 1 million youth. Um, then you're talking about lack of corporate social responsibility. So all of these things impact the driver here. So what is the current state of affairs and how does it help, whether shape your direction or demotivate your direction in terms of what you're doing as LRDN?
Thank you. It is heavily, say, opened, and I would take some specifics to look at. And I have traveled across Liberia in many ways, traveling maybe as a program guest, or traveling as a researcher, or traveling as a regular person. What I see across Liberia, Mr. Shelton, Mr. Sandy, and the audience out there, I see a resilient population, and I see a very deceptive public service. And when I say deceptive public service, we have a country. I mean, this could be argued at different fronts, whether economically, socially, or whatever. Liberia can take care of itself. I can say that for real. Our problem has never been lack of funding. Our problem has never been finances to finance the important things in our country. Our problem has been the over politicization of many things in our country. So right now, and I will say in a very clear and objective way, and for the sake of my conscience, I don't want to like take a side of a particular party, of a particular religion, of or a particular individual. The politics in our country has undermined, and I want to say clearly, politics in our country has undermined almost everything. And we have very weak institutions. Powerful individuals shift, turn, and shape things within their interests within our country. So you have not seen that conscious, deliberate political will to make sure that the system works on the merit basis. It is not like something I'm talking about for the past 4 years or the past 10 years or so, but the Liberia protracted systemic public service or malfunction or that function has become a way of life. So now you need conscious disruptors who will come up with the sense of how they see a society that should work in the context of what President Toba would say, a wholesome, functioning society, that every segment of the society is working. The security sector, the educational system, the health system, and people who are responsible and paid to do certain services are delivering on the contract signed between them and the population. I can tell you, with that sense of leadership, Liberia will definitely progress in a short space of time. Why? Because most of the kind of technologies, most of the kind of ideas we need as a country has been tested in almost everywhere around the world. We need transfer of these ideas and to contextualize them within the Liberian context to make sure that we as a country can achieve this much awaited economic prosperity. We have a very peaceful society. I can tell you, Liberians are peaceful with the kind of activities that go in our country. We can be very proud of ourselves as accepting to be very peaceful people. But we need leadership. We need honesty. I'm inspired by the Singapore scenario. It doesn't have to be everybody. It should be conscious, earnest people who believe in saying the truth when it's true. When they're doing good, say it, it's good. When we are not doing good, say we are not doing good. It shouldn't be like you want to say we are not doing good when we are doing good, and saying we are doing good when we are not doing good because of personal interest and sentiments. So I can say the consciousness of our people, like the Singapore scenario, honesty, discipline, and hard work. We saw from 1965 up to 1990, these people created a space where they could change the narratives of Singapore, and it is a prosperous country on the face of the earth. We can do it as a country, but we have not had that generation of people who would be very conscious and disciplined to do that. And this is why we are trying to inspire. I have benefited a lot from my country. I know how to get around people and to say things for them and to do for me, but I don't want it for myself. I want it for the country that in the end we can be proud to say the great Republic of Liberia again. That's what we want to achieve, and we can achieve it together.
Thank you, Moses. One
Yeah,
more
John.
question, quick, so we can open the lines.
Yeah, John, you made a very wild claim. You claim that Liberia is faced with what you call deceptive public servants. How do you operationalize the word deceptive for our audience?
Thank you. Because we have the opportunities in our
Mhm.
country, massive opportunities to operationalize and make sure we can achieve things. But we go on saying extra flamboyant things that are not actually needed. If you went on to make heavy promises of massive construction of roads and everything, it's really good. But if you can talk about how, if I am a representative of a district that is hosting, say, a company like Mita Steel, we have two opportunities. We have the Social Development Fund and the County Development Fund. All right.
Mhm.
So the county development fund is basically what is put in the budget for each county, and the social development fund is what comes from various concessions. All right. So in that case, how can we make sure that we have major empirical findings from all of our areas? There are areas that are in acute needs of health facilities. It can be like the place like Ganta, in the case of Nimba, like Ganta, Sanikule, and Yekipa, they have. So what do we need? We need economic stimulus packages for those kind of areas. If you went on far back in Barnes, Saclipie, and all those places, they need good schools. They need good hospitals. How can we make sure we invest into those areas? We have a major referral hospital. How can we make sure we have road connected to that area? These are the kind of sound policy decision we need to make. Instead of going to say, we will make sure 10,000 people will get this, 50,000 people will get this out of the blue, and you know there are no possibilities to actually do that in terms of the actual everyday activities. We are talking realities. If Biden, for example, President Biden is saying there will be provision of 10,000 jobs in the next 3 months, they have investigated how much Amazon is putting up, how much our major companies, Coca-Cola, will do within what sector of our economy, former jobs, informal jobs, and just be real to the point. If we are not doing this, hey, people, we are not doing this because we have had failures, we have had challenges with COVID and SYZ, and the factors can show. But we will ensure over the next 4 5 years, these are the kind of things we will do. This will be the result of what we will do. That is the earnestness in our public service, and that has been lacking within our society. People want to say things they would never do, and they will come back and still be received because of the kind of society we have. So once we have a conscious society, we have people telling you, hey, Mr. President, hey, Mr. Vice President, hey, Mr. Senator, we like your desire to come visit us, but we have had some dissenting opinion based on the previous promises, which we found not complying with the actual societal or operations in our society right now. And you are having a decision not going behind to take things to bring for yourself and to take things for your individuals and families. And the next day, you go and say something different from the rest of the community. You are saying, I'm standing up for my community because Once my community is doing better, I can do better, and we can have a better society. These are the kind of frantic efforts we want to make within our society.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And I thought that was a better way you explained it. The deceptivity there from the public service, and it boils down to servants who should be employees of the people who are the employers, and they make these quick, Moses say, impulsive promises with no empirical research done to determine. For instance, you say you give everyone free education, but not understanding that okay, the education budget to do that has to be higher than every other budget within the national budget. So because when you do that, you just open the floodgate. Everyone wants to go to school. You talked about the insatiable desire that you saw in many of the students. So students who could not pay the private school tuition at AMU and other places, where you think they're going to run to LU? And you don't have the capacity to absorb all that group, but it's the deceptivity you talked about, and I thought it was a brilliant way you put it. But let's open the line now. We want to encourage you to call in and engage Mr. John S. Yomi Jr., SM Yomi Jr. Um, Please call. The number is 404-272-2808. We're looking forward to having you here. But as we
The,
continue and with the callers, let's look at the governance structure
the,
now in Liberia. Uh,
Volcano.
know that you want to say something?
Yeah, quickly, not to cut you off. John, like Volcano was saying, the issues regarding education. I just want you to quickly look at this pronouncement that came from the ruling administration, meaning the CDC government. President We are declaring free education for community colleges and universities, public universities in Liberia. Is 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 the free education policy achieving its intended objectives?
Yeah, that is something to look at. And most time when I have an opportunity to respond to question like this, I want
Mhm.
to come up with facts, and I've not really gathered significant facts. But it's a really good idea. But if you saw the many, say, feedback from Go Slow, student action, teacher actions, I can tell you that I still more to look into that in terms of budgetary support.
You're an instructor, right?
Yep, at
And
the African Methodist Episcopal University, not at the UL.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay, and you track happenings in the country in the educational sector, right?
very significantly.
Are you impressed with some of the things you've been reading about happening at Tottenham University, the shortage of professors, poor sanitary conditions, the University of Liberia being faced with similar problems? Do these things suggest that the free education policy seems not to be working?
I think to a larger extent there are still more needed to be done, because I know when I was at Corridon, it may not have been some of the best years at Corridon, but the faculty was able to attract some of the best instructors from around the region, and were able to pay them regularly with something much more acceptable. And the government was providing subsidies, and that's the essence of subsidies within the budget. Provide, I mean, some complementary assistances to institutions that are providing the welfare for the state, like the health institutions, faith-based institutions, universities. But I don't think these things have been forthcoming recently. So we just need to do more and see how. There's no way you play politics with education, because you need to invest. And based upon the investment, you have the kind of results you have. We don't have students coming up and solving our problems because they have not been raised and trained to solve problems. So they come and form part of the cycle of problems. It has been an age-old problem.
Another brilliant way you put it, man.
He's a
You know,
diplomat, you know.
come again, Moses.
I say he's a diplomat. John is a
Yeah,
diplomat,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. But the number again is 404-272-2808. Please join the conversation if you're interested. Mr. Yomi is here till 8:30 with us tonight. We have 15 more minutes to go. Probably, I would say 13 because we got to wrap up. 13 more minutes to go. But I was about to ask you on the issue of governance in the country, and you've in your young age, I believe, have probably experienced three functional governments. Probably the Charles Taylor government. You may have been a student at the time,
Yeah,
and then the Ellen government. I'm not giving you the Dole government because you know you were you were probably just beginning, but
yeah.
but Taylor's government, Ellen's government, and now we have President Weah's government. Be blunt, and this is about your country, and you say you'll be honestly blunt. How do you picture the governance now, and what is happening, with regards to, because governance domestically can be influenced by foreign policy. If a government is not doing well by the people, the international community will step forward. They will come in and say, hey, we've been hearing some diplomats talking. A European envoy said Monrovia is the dirtiest city in Africa. The American ambassador said the corruption is too much. One of the congressmen said the government is kleptocrat, is a is a government
Yeah,
of
cryptocurrency.
kleptocracy. So many things happening. How do we look at governance in its pure form as it relates to foreign and domestic policy, and how you will look at that rejection from the Taylor, Ellen, and now to President Weah?
Firstly, I want to speak to how I want to engage it. I want to
Okay,
engage it from various segments because
okay.
it would be unfair to just give a blanket description to a government or a particular president's
You're talking research.
policy.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We'll
So
take it.
now, in terms of education, which is a heartbeat to our work we do, we saw a lot of instabilities during the Taylor regime that undermined safe space for education, like in Lofa, in parts of Grand Gita, in parts of Bon County, even where we were in Nimba and other places in Monrovia, there were massive disruptions of our academic activities due to the civil crisis. So that was a major challenge. But you could see the president that was basically focused on the protection of the regime. So military was more of a focus, keeping the population safe to some extent was the focus. But you could see it again during the Taylor's regime, which many people don't talk about. There were some very important domestic policy established or laws that you want to talk about, like the no-cow deal. Let's say the no-cow arrangement was established during the Taylor's era. Many people will now want to talk about that. You could see the mineral development agreement law that talks about the protection of places and how concession should go about. Those were important instruments, being formulated during the Taylor's era. So you want to see how, those things were important. If you come into Madam Shirley, you could see the transition from a heavily challenged country when it comes to institutions. She was able to really succeed on the establishment and the revitalization of several institutions like GAC, like the establishment of the Public Procurement and Concession Commission, trying to make sure they are actually working. And we could see a lot of things and was able to attract a lot of foreign interventions. And HIPIC, for example, many people talk about HIPIC in a way I really wanted to talk about is it happened in the period where almost any country could succeed in HIPIC. Why? HIPIC came as a recommendation from Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs is a renowned economist, and he was saying to make poor countries succeed, we must create an international framework that tries to get rid of the debts. Because if you are not in a certain level of your debt or fragility, you cannot have the opportunities to borrow and to take loans. And government needs to take loans and to make sure government programs are also carry on based upon or complementary to what they have from income generation domestically. So many countries across Africa and other parts of Asia were very, very in a low category to borrow. So Jeffrey Sachs' recommendation was received by, the World Bank, the IMF, and they said that we cannot just say throw all debts and people get free. So now what we're going to do, we're going to put frameworks that do not go back within the debt situation, and they should set up strong institutions and rule of law to make sure that they gravitate to economic development. So we saw, I mean, Minister Gafuan and the rest of the people at that period with high level of sophistication doing the requirements. So it's not to take away the credit from them, but just the condition that was laid more like a giveaway. But they were able to organize themselves and meet up with all of the requirements, which took, I mean, other countries very long time. But with the kind of economic management team, we were able to graduate from HIPIC and we became free to take loans and to do other stuff. All right.
Can you
So,
just hold that thought? I have a caller in queue. We'll
okay.
come back.
Yeah.
So just keep that thought, and we'll come
Yeah.
right back. Let's hear what this caller contribution is. Caller, are you there? What's your name? Where you calling from?
Um, my name is B.N. Gavley Jr. I join you from South Dakota this evening.
Good.
Um, I want to appreciate Mr. Yomi for always providing a solution to our country's problem. He wants person who that believes that he has so much to give to Liberia if the opportunity is given him in terms of the work he's doing with his private within the private sector, specifically his NGO. Because I watched John, I've seen the incredible work he's doing for Liberia. And these are the kind of people that those who in the legislature or city national government should begin to empower with more funding so that they can do the little things for the community. At the end of the day, the community will get better. But at the end of the day, the same people who sit at policies, institutions, government agencies, will say to us that we are doing this because we want to be recognized. It's not about the recognition. It's about service. Look at what he's doing. See the perfect ideas he's preferring to Liberia. But I mean, these kind of young men, we don't really take them serious because they're not in the face of politicians or national leaders to beg them to support the not-for-profit job. I say thank you for what you do for Liberia. We will embrace you. We will appreciate you because some days will come when God will open more opportunities for you so that you can maximize what
Thank
you
you.
have to
Thank
give to
you.
Liberia.
Let me take the next caller. Thank you so much. All right. The next caller calling from 8531 number. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is McDonald Gardner. I'm calling from Louisville, Kentucky.
Good evening. Welcome. You've been following the conversation. What is your contribution?
Definitely. I just wanted to say first, Shelton and Moses, yes, I want to say thank you first to you guys for hosting our young diplomat. With me this platform, I think it's a blessing. And also to appreciate Mr. Yomi, who's like a brilliant brother to me from years back in Liberia. Um, I think
You
like the
you're
previous caller
you're in an
said,
area where you're kind of fading in and out. So I don't know if you can reposition yourself.
Bring
When you
your
do
speak
that
up a
call
little
back,
bit.
we'll probably get back with you. Continue, John, where you were, because I know you left off from.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about a HIPIC, all right. So we had a more sophisticated team, who understand how the instruments should be turned left and right, and make sure all of the reports, could go to the right places on the right time, and we're able to succeed on that. But I can say again, that regime they didn't have the massive sources when it comes to education. A few people went abroad, like including me. I mean, went abroad and studied. But I'm talking about the kind of opportunities we have as a government to invest and make sure the office of the president is at foreign affairs. The premier institute of the country, the University of Liberia, is just across the road. I don't think the president desired of making our country move forward with the kind of picture at the university, with the kind of park where, lack of better words, people will go and sit and use to pee and everything. And she would sit over there. I think not much was done to shift the dynamics of the University of Liberia. I can say in and day with all of the acclamations, with all of the good policies and the political will to move our country from low budget to 300 million up to 500 million, that was a major minus for that government. Current government,
Let's
I
do that
mean,
in 1 minute.
yeah, current
Okay.
government, a lot of things to talk about. Maintaining relationship, great. Making people from all sectors of the society have job opportunities, I mean, great. But in terms of how the institution should be strengthened, I think our public service morale has dropped a little bit, discipline within public sector has dropped a little bit, and with the consciousness of people who are responsible should just revisit and make sure, I mean, the round pairs are in round holes and square pairs are in square holes, and we should succeed because there are
Thank you.
more opportunities.
I got one caller here quick. Caller, what's your name and where you calling from?
How are you? This is John Carl Harris. How are you guys in studio? Mr. Yormie, how are you?
Great.
I listened to you extensively. Your presentation is very well delivered. But I want to make one clarity. The UN ambassador that disparaged of Monrovia, on Tuesday, on today, in fact, apologized that the statement he made was exaggerated. He didn't mean to say that. They call him Lauren de la House. He apologized and he said the statement was exaggerated. So I want for the show to clarify that. Besides that, if you check the entire, the entirety of cities in Africa, Monrovia is not listed amongst the most dirtier cities in the world or in Africa. Over 50 cities in Africa, if you Google it from 2020, from 2018 up to present, Monrovia is not one of the dirtiest cities in the world. So for clarification, gentlemen, I hope the show will take cue. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
making
you.
that clarification.
Shelton, before I continue, let me just say that, I mean, many times people try to politicize the statements from foreign diplomats. I myself had a down position on the way it was presented. But in terms of facts, this is one of the problems with many institutions in Liberia. We do not have available data. That's why sometimes you don't find us within certain categories. But there is no way to sugarcoat the downturn sanitation condition of Monrovia. There is no
Absolutely.
way you can ignore that.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's overemphasized. I won't agree. And sometimes people try to politicize it. We have challenges, but my point here is that we have the opportunity to turn things around and we must do it because it's a requirement. We have to do it.
John, your
Excellent, John.
yeah, no time, Moses. So
Yeah,
John,
no,
just
you
John,
know, John,
Moses, no time, Moses. Is we got a rapper is 8:28.
all
Yeah, just tell us quick about your NGO because people are asking, so that at least if they can where they can find it, whether on the internet or somewhere quick.
Oh yeah, sure. I will just put the website in the chat, but it is Liberia Research and Development Networks. We have a very active Facebook page. You can just reach out to us and the team in Liberia. I mean, they're always available. We just everywhere trying to make sure our population can have opportunities other than the regular everyday politics. So we have a very great team. They have been the real brain behind this. I'm just like the face of it, but we have a very organized and highly voluntary focused team. So you can just reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to listen to you. It's not like all ideas from us. We want to listen to you, we want to be better, we want to do better things for our country. So we are open to any collaboration, any sponsorship, and any partnership.
Thank you, John, for being in studio with us. We look forward to more positive, discussion down the stretch. We wish you well. We'll come back again to discuss your second book when that is. We couldn't get to it because of time. We're budgeted on time right now. So thanks so much for having you. Good
It has
night.
been a great
And,
pleasure. So much to talk about. I will always be happy, and we must do the best for our country. And I like to say, let's get the real job done and the love ring. We must do it. I'm so appreciative of how receptive you and your colleague has been for, I mean, making this program happen. I saw the honesty. I saw your deliberate effort to make sure that we can make this happen. I'm more than appreciative, and I think on behalf of our team, not just myself, we appreciate the opportunity and we look forward to future engagements.
you're welcome, John. It was
thank
a
you.
pleasure
Thank you.
having you.
So Moses, I guess we're out of here because right now we're
Right.
having technical issue with the theme song. Keep bouncing it around. I don't know what's going on. You see your connect. Your image there looking horrible, and
Yeah,
then the theme song
something
is
goes
just
like
keep
that.
keep tolling in and out, in and out. So, but We'll catch up on Friday. Let's just wrap
Yeah.
it up. It's 8:30 in the city. Volcano, Shelton, Moses, Sandy, the issues room. We'll say good night and thank you for being there. Join us again on Friday. We'll be back here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with another great conversation. Thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate you.
you.